Hello everyone, I'm Tom Dove from the Ashby Chess Club, and I want to do a two-part video on a game that was played the other night. My game against Rafael Malchek, a 191 rated player, a very good player from Wigston. He had the black pieces, I had the white pieces, and the defence he chose was the Benoni. Which I didn't know a deal about until very recently, when I started doing my preparation for this match, and I saw that the Benoni formed a big part of his repertoire, so it made sense for me to prepare myself as much as I could for a Benoni setup. Now it comes after D4. Normally I'm an E4 player, but I've really forced myself to look at lots of other different opening setups. D4, C4 the English, knight to F3, flank openings, bird, all sorts of things, just to force myself into different setups apart from the same old E4 setups with all the tactical skirmishes that happen after that. And I'm glad I did, because one of the strategies that I employed in this game worked very well for me, was denying my opponent space and cramping his position, which is something I've not really done before, certainly not consciously, and it worked out very well for me. It was very satisfying, so I'll be pointing that out throughout the game. So when I played D4, I'm expecting one of the most common moves, which is knight to F6 or D5, going into a Slav, a semi-Slav, a Queen's Gambit declined situation. Maybe a Dutch or an E6 move that is fairly non-committal, that could go to a Dutch or go to another system. But there was and all of these moves, pretty much all these moves, will allow me to get on with, you know, if I want to play a London system or a Trompowsky, or C4, or maybe Fianchetto, go into that kind of system, the Fianchetto systems, which are very strong, which I enjoy playing now. Very few systems will stop me doing that, but there are a few that you have to be aware of. One of them is the England Gambit, which is an immediate E5 by black. I've played this a few years ago, had a bit of fun with it. In my experience, a lot of white players don't really know what to do about it. They know it's bad, but they don't know how to handle it, and this is I'll go take you through very quickly what can happen if white doesn't know what to do. All very plausible moves if you look. So takes, which is a good move, knight attacks it, knight defends it, all very plausible. Queen out attacking the pawn, bishop out attacking it, defending rather. Queen comes here, check, and attacking that bishop and this pawn here, which isn't the end of the world for white. He just drops his bishop back here, the queen picks up the pawn, and this looks like quite dangerous for black's queen. It looks like it might be getting trapped, but unfortunately for white, there's a bit of a thunderbolt just about to arrive in the form of this bishop here, and now it looks pretty awful for white. Now he can try again a very plausible idea of breaking the pin with his queen, but then black just comes here, and then checkmate. So that's a fairly embarrassing end. So you need to know, as any player, you need to really know all the pitfalls of systems before you start to play. Another immediate challenge to white's preferred system is this move C5. It is a far better move. It's a Benoni. It's nowhere near as loosening as E4 or E5, which is a terrible move really for black if white knows what they're doing. So what's the point of this move? Why does black play this? Well, it is an immediate challenge in the centre, and as I say, this is the Benoni. The Benoni has lots of different guises, and maybe one of the best known is the Benko system, very similar to the Sicilian and the French systems. There's lots of different variations with the Benoni, so this Benko gambit is a really nasty defence, and it goes like this. This is one of the lines in it, and here white has to be very careful. Black is going to regain this pawn. He's going to swing his rooks over. He's going to bring his queen along here. This knight's going to move from here to here to here, possibly. This bishop is going to be bearing down on the queen's side, and basically black is going to crash through on the queen's side and then do a right angle and attack the king. And many games have been lost for white to the Benko gambit. It's a cracking defence, and I'd urge anybody to go away and research it, both how to play against it and maybe add it to their own repertoire. Okay, so that's the Benko gambit. Other ideas are things like the Clarendon Court, which is a strange, bizarre-looking defence. Again, it's nowhere near as bad for black as it might appear. It's a cross between the Benoni and the Dutch, and depending on how white approaches it, it's quite flexible. So one of the lines can go knight c3, knight to f6, and then this move here preparing e4. Now black will play immediately e5, and if white plays the plausible en passant, and instead of taking back, black simply pushes in the centre, and all of a sudden it's looking very, very good. All very good for black. He's got a really nice pawn centre. This pawn's going to get picked up very shortly. He's going to move here and castle, and yeah, it's nowhere near as bad as I say. So let's just go back a little bit. So let's have a look to see what can happen if white just does nothing about this challenge. So this is the old Benoni. The more modern version is knight to f6, prefacing the c5 move. So let's see what will happen if white does nothing. Well, immediately you're playing into black's hands, because when these pawns get exchanged, black will have a 2-1 pawn majority in the centre, which is hopefully going to be good for him. And then it's quite a passive position that white ends up in, and he can't really play his London system, his Trumpowski, or one of his other systems. He's always going to be worried about what's going to happen with this D pawn. So another option is to take that pawn there, which is the poorest of all the options. White can get into a lot of trouble here. First, right off the bat, black has succeeded in getting his 2-pawn majority, but not only that, now he's going to get very easy development. He's got a nice open file. He's going to just attack this pawn, and if this bishop is allowed to take that pawn, it's a very nice diagonal that he's going to be able to bear down on that f2 square here, the weak f2 square there, and dominate this d4 square. So white might want to defend that pawn. Obviously, this is very clumsy. You're blocking your own pieces and pawns in here with this move, so that's not really an option. A more plausible option, but a very bad one, is this move here, and black will hit out with the a5 move undermining. You can't defend it with this, obviously, because if black takes that pawn, you take back, you're going to lose your rook. So another move here again looks fairly plausible until this happens. Queen's going to pick up that rook. There's nothing you can do about it apart from interpose with your knight. Queen picks it up, and White's in a terrible mess here. A piece down already. So that's no good. Taking there. So really, the only option you're left with, and it's a very good option in fact, is moving, moving forward with the pawn, playing to d5, and this is great because you are taking over the e6 square and the c6 square, which are very important in the black camp. And so that needs to be supported. This pawn needs to be supported, and we do that with c4 and e4 hopefully. So black plays d6. He could still go into a Benko Gambit type setup. After I play this move, he could play here, but he doesn't. He moved to g6, kind of fianchetto his bishop. So I play knight to c3. This centre is going to be very, very important to me. I want to protect it as much as I can. And then he moved his bishop here. Fantastic diagonal forward, supporting these pawns coming down the board. I played e4. This is all my plan. I'm making a big centre, and I really want to maintain that. Already you can see a little bit of a cramp developing because black might want to play knight here, but he can't. The only squares available to him are here and here. So already there's a little bit of a cramp developing. So black played this move here, which is a bit of a little known sideline. I had researched it in my preparation, and the idea behind it is black, whilst vacating these black squares and making his king side weak as a result, what he's hoping to gain in compensation for that is the removal of one of the key defenders to my queen side. After this, it's going to be quite overwhelming. He's got a lot of firepower coming down the queen side, and he's just removed one of my main defenders. So that's the idea behind it. So I'm expecting these pawns to be mobilised very, very quickly, and so I'm going to have to play in the centre and on the king side, and keep my eye out that I don't get steamrolled on the queen side. Okay, so the queen comes out here, as I was kind of expecting. That's really what black wants to be doing, is bearing down on my queen side there. And he was attacking this pawn, so I just moved my queen. I could have moved my bishop or here, but I didn't know whether I wanted this as a more of a attacking piece or a defensive piece. So this was just more flexible, the move I chose in the end. Knight just looks like simple development, but there's a threat here. He can take that pawn. My queen is overloaded then. She's protecting two pawns. So if she takes this pawn, I take back. Well, that leaves this pawn undefended to a queen fork of the king and the rook. So I have to defend with this bishop. And I'm just going to stop the video here, and you can go to part 2.